Hello, welcome back to my second, I say welcome back, you may have just found it. Welcome to the Tech Diary. This is my second channel where everything's a bit of a mess. I take forever to get to the point. Sometimes that point isn't worth getting to. Some of you like it, some of you don't like it. If you don't like it, there's a door, a digital door over there. See you later. Right, and by the way, if you do go, you don't have to leave a comment saying that you're leaving, or that some people do, dislike, and then no one cares, just go. Right, I want to talk about, is it two things today? It kind of is, but it's also just it's like an overarching concern that I have about Apple. I'm really worried about Apple. I don't think they're going to disappear next week. They're okay. They're doing fine. They're doing fine in terms of sales and revenue and money in the bank and all that sort of stuff. There's not an issue there. There won't be an issue there for a long time, if ever. And I'm just a bit worried as a massive Apple fan. And I am. I genuinely am. I've been a huge Apple fan since the early 2000s, probably a long time ago. But I'm worried about them. I don't even know how to pinpoint this, but it's not just the Apple Intelligence thing and all that sort of stuff. It kind of stems from two things, actually. The first thing is two interviews that I've watched, or two videos I've watched about Apple recently. One is the Joanna Stern interview with Craig Federighi and, I always get his name wrong, Greg Joswiak. I think they call him Joz. Let's just say Craig Federighi and Joz. Basically, the head of product. What is he? No, head of software, Craig, and the head of marketing, I think, Joz. Joanna Stern interviewed them just after WWDC. She's brilliant, by the way. Such a good interviewer. She didn't hold back. She really went for it. And we'll put a link in the description to that interview so you can go and check it out. But they were really on the back foot. She was asking very fair questions. Things like, for instance, this isn't verbatim, but it was something like along the lines of, do you want to do you want Siri to be the best thing out there? And they kind of said yes. And then she said, so why isn't it? Amazing. What a question. And it was a really uncomfortable watch, but a really good uncomfortable watch, if that makes sense. And I can't remember an Apple interview with their execs that's been like that. In fact, I can't think of an interview like that that's ever taken place. That they've always been very, very much on the front foot and very confident, very clear with their answers. Whereas this, they just seemed, like I say, completely put back by it, really. Lots of looking down to the side and all this sort of stuff, and some very weird answers, and a few admissions, which was interesting. I think they kind of admitted that Siri is not very good at all, which I don't think they've ever done that before. But it was just a very uncomfortable thing to watch. The other video that I watched was an interview on a podcast with Mark Gurman. So Mark Gurman is this kind of renowned Apple leaker. Is that the right word? I don't know. He basically apparently still has lots of contacts within Apple who give him information that no one else gets. And this interview on this podcast was fascinating. I mean, hands up, who knows how much of it is true? I do have to kind of give you that caveat that this comes from Mark Gurman. It's not confirmed news or statements made by Apple, but he was just giving a bit of an insight into from his sources about the whole Apple Intelligence delay and why it took so long, and this story of Craig Federighi just before they kind of launched this new the kind of additional Siri functionality and Apple Intelligence features. He was apparently comparing the features they were about to market with what was on his iPhone, on Craig's iPhone, and it just didn't match up. So he then rang the alarm bells and said, hang on a minute, we can't do this, we can't release this, it doesn't do what we're saying it does in the marketing material. So again, that could be absolute rubbish. It's rumor mill stuff and all that sort of business. So there's those videos, but then there was my continued experience with if I can get into it, I don't want to show you anything on here that you shouldn't see. Nothing dodgy, obviously, just my personal stuff. iPadOS 26 and iOS 26, whatever. iOS 26, which is on here. Ooh, I nearly showed you my PIN number then. That wouldn't be a good thing at all, would it? Yeah, iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. These are both the developer betas. I did a kind of live reaction to this on this channel a week ago. Thank you for watching that, if you did, by the way, guys. It was a really, really high-performing video for this channel, and yeah, it was great to watch your, to see your feedback on it and just see those numbers rising. Thank you so much. By the way, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, you know what to do. iOS 26, oh no, if you haven't seen it yet, I think it's live now on the channel as you watch this, on the main channel, on Mark Ellis Reviews. I did a similar thing with iOS 26, a live reaction, and my word, did it go wrong. It was all over the place. This phone kept getting really hot, which is why it's plugged in, by the way, because the battery drains really fast with this developer beta installed. But not just that, it was just an absolute car crash in terms of trying to work out how to use iOS 26. So it's worth watching, if only to laugh at me, really, just have a good chuckle at a very hectic and disorganized YouTube video. But my experience of these two operating systems, and I'm not basing this, I promise, on the fact that they're betas. I know what a beta is. I used to work in software development. I used to work for a software development company for about 15 years, I think. So I know what a beta is. And that, I'm not judging Apple on what these two operating systems are like now in June 2025, because this is the first example of it, the first test of these two updates, and they're not representative of what we'll see later this year, obviously, or I hope they're not anyway. So I'm not basing it on that, but what I am basing my kind of concern on is the fact that if you strip away the beta-ishness about these two operating systems, there's not much substance there. I'm sorry, there's not. The iPadOS thing, yes, it's got windowing, it's got the window controls, it's got better multitasking, it's got the Files app, etc., all that stuff, which I've been waiting for ages, and it's okay to use, actually. It does feel more like a Mac. The problem you then have is that you start thinking, well, what is the point in the iPad, really? As much as I want it to become a Mac, I keep banging that drum. It's that classic thing. You then get the thing that you want, and you're like, okay, but now what? It's kind of just a Mac, but not a very good Mac. I can touch the screen. So there's little substance there, to be honest. And the same thing with iOS 26, where liquid glass, this applies to both of these, is horrendous. I mean, if I just very quickly show you the notification center, every time I see it, that's the notification center on iOS 26. It's so illegible. It's just horrendous. Same thing on this. Not great at all. I think they will dial all of this back. I think this is the most translucent version of iOS and iPadOS 26 we'll ever see. But even so, it's so tricky to kind of get to work around and just read. It's really hard. And I think, again, if you strip that back, what are we left with? We're left with this redesign and things like call screening and updates to messaging, as they always do, a few things in Maps, and then Apple Intelligence, this kind of admission that it's basically way behind schedule, and we won't see it until at some point this year, which could be December, who knows. Even then, maybe that will be delayed again. Who knows? So you're not left with much. And I'm not the sort of person who wants something massive every year. There's only so much they can do with their tablet operating system and their phone operating system. But what they are doing with it, compared to the likes of, this wasn't. I didn't put this prop here on purpose. I promise. This was here for another reason. Nothing. They make a really interesting, or they've created a very interesting version of Android. It's brilliant. Android itself is great. I prefer using Android at the moment compared to iOS. Not iOS 26, but just regular, normal iOS 18 or whatever it is now. and partly because I know everything works. And when I say everything, I have to include AI in that. AI on these platforms is completely half-baked. It's not very good. And because it's such an intrinsic part of the offering these days, that you have to talk about that. You have to take that into consideration when you look at the operating system as a whole. And if you compare that to Samsung, to Google, to Nothing don't do a huge amount of stuff with AI at the moment, but there's some stuff built into it. But certainly Google, Samsung, Honor, most other smartphone brands actually, they have a much more complete and crucially working version of AI built deeply into their operating systems and their phones, and it shows. It really shows. And I think I won't labour the point here, because I think I have mentioned it a few times on this channel, that I'm concerned that Apple is so far behind with this because they don't really want to get involved with it. I think it's a distraction for them. I think they wanted to really focus on Vision OS, the whole mixed reality thing with Vision Pro. I think that was a big thing for them. Even the whole CarPlay thing and the kind of cancelled car thing they had going for many years, the Project Titan thing. And that's kind of turned into, I think, Apple CarPlay Ultra. I think that is quite a big deal for them. Or they wanted it to be a big deal, and now it's been quashed by AI because AI has just got in the way. And again, Mark Gurman in that interview was saying, it's really worth listening to. It's a brilliant podcast. He was basically saying that they are so far behind that where they'll be in 3 years' time is roughly where the likes of Google are now. And that, if you think about that, that's quite frightening, because where will Google be in 3 years' time? Everything is moving at such a fast pace. And like I say, I don't think Apple is getting left behind in a market share or sales perspective. I think they're going to maintain that stuff. But something isn't right. And again, I don't really know how to I can't put my finger on it, what it is. It feels like it's that part of the movie where your hero he's climbed, he's done amazing things throughout most of it, and then you get to about the third of the way in, and that's where things go wrong. Everything was going brilliantly down here, and suddenly at this part of the film, everything goes wrong. He kind of falls over, he gets punched and knocked out, he crashes his car, whatever, and it's just horrendous. And then it's like, well, now what? My hero is, that's how it feels. Apple isn't my hero, but you get the point that the hero's journey thing, it feels like they're completely on the wrong side of it. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if there even needs to be a solution. I think it's going to be very interesting what happens for the rest of this year. I think the iPhone 17 launch has got to be impressive. I think we'll have a thin iPhone, I guess. It just seems to be going that way, which I don't see the point in that really. But I think that there has to be something fairly big with the iPhone, and maybe something else. I don't know. Maybe the Apple Watch. What are we left with? The Mac is brilliant. So the Mac is the one thing actually that is absolutely fine. The Mac is just quite happily sitting there, chilled out. I'm good, guys. I've been here longer than all of you, and everything's fine for me. But it's just this stuff. It's the iPad. Do you feel the same? Let me know in the comments. Let's have a chat about it in the comments. I love reading your comments on this channel. Generally speaking, they're really nice. They're really good compared to what I get on the other channel, because it's bigger. You get a lot more other people on there, as you probably know what I'm saying, what I'm referring to here. But I do love our chats in the comments, so get involved, please. The other thing I wanted to very quickly mention, because it fascinates me, is the reaction to this. This is again, not sponsored at all. We will put a link to this in the description, and if you click that, we do get a kickback in terms of like an affiliate commission, just completely. Cards on the table. That's how this industry works. But we're not sponsored by Logitech, but I'm a big fan of this. It's the Logitech Flip Folio, and it has this detachable Bluetooth magnetic keyboard thing, and it's really good. It's a great keyboard. I love the fact you can just hide the keyboard away and then open it up like that and do that, and you've got just an iPad basically. Fantastic. But the review of this on my main channel has gone really well in terms of views, but equally people a worrying number of people seem to think I've been paid or sponsored in some way by Logitech to kind of promote this. That isn't the case. I mean, again, it's peeling back the curtain a little bit on this for people who take an interest in how this stuff works. I drove to London to a press briefing for this. I wasn't paid to go there. I was in London for another meeting, to be fair, but I stayed longer and missed my son's bedtime to go to this Logitech briefing in, I think, was it Paddington Station or somewhere? Sat there for half an hour, had a demo of it, and they gave me one to take home. Got home at 9 o'clock or whatever, and then made a video about it out of my own time and out of my team's own time, because we thought it would perform well on the channel, and equally I like the product. I like talking about it, and I'm still using it, as you can see. But people, this is how the internet works, unfortunately. People think, for some reason, we've reached this point where positive opinions on products are seen as being paid. They must be paid for that. No, that wasn't the case. But the thing that does fascinate me about it is that so many people keep saying, but there's no trackpad. Well, no, there's not. But there's not supposed to be a trackpad. It's not as though you'd buy this and then get it out of the box and go, where's the trackpad? But you know there's no trackpad because it's sold as not having a trackpad. There's other options for that. You know, the Magic Keyboard, the Combo Touch from Logitech as well. There are others, and loads of other great options. But if you don't need a trackpad, and I've been getting on fine, trust me, even on iPadOS 26, without a trackpad, this is such a good example of a product that has a very specific use case, and it works. I've gone off topic a bit here, haven't I? Who cares? Not being paid, by the way. But if you click, we get an affiliate, or whatever. If you buy, not if you click. Anyway, it's been a long day today, guys. We've just got a puppy as well, so my puppy brain is kind of in full effect. She will feature. She will be. I nearly brought her in today, actually, but she's only 8 weeks old and chewing. She's a Fox Red Lab, and if you've got a Labrador, if you've met a Labrador of that age, you'll know that they just eat everything. They just chew through walls and cities, and so she's not coming in here, basically. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to stop talking and leave you in peace. Guys, get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think about Apple. That is so hot. I'm going to unplug it and turn it off. Catch you next week. Cheers.